Hello, my name is John Tigg. I'm the superintendent of schools for Franklin West Supervisory Union, serving the students of Fairfax, Fletcher, and Georgia. This particular video is for the residents of Fairfax regarding the long-term weighted average daily membership. If you recall from our last video, this is a key number in calculating your tax rate. If you didn't see that video, I would suggest you pause right here and go back and take a look at that video and then come back and join us. We'll wait for you. All right, well, thanks for joining us again. Now to continue with our discussion of long-term weighted average daily membership. And it essentially is how do we get from the kids that you see here on the screen, which are actual living human beings in the school system, to a number that is much larger than that that's going to show up in the tax calculation. So let's get there. So to calculate the long-term weighted average daily membership, what you do is we look at the average daily membership, which is a number that is counting the number of students that are in our schools over a 25-day period from late September to sometime in October. And our average daily membership last year was 893.38. You might be wondering, how do we get 0.38 of a student? It's based on the enrollment. So let's say a student enrolled with, I don't know, in the sick with or unenrolled with 6 days left in the period, that might mean that they were with us for 0.38 of the period. If a student was there for half of the time, like, and again, not absenteeism, but actually started school or left school halfway through that period, they would count as a 0.5. So that's where we get decimals. It's not parts of kids, it's parts of times that those kids spent there. So in Fairfax, the average daily membership last year was 893.38. Average daily membership this year, 913. So that's again pre-K through 12 students. State place students, we had 5.07 in the previous year, and those carry forward into the next year's calculation. You'll see the number of students that we have in early essential education or pre-K, number of students in the elementary school, number of students in the middle school, which is counts as 6 through 8, number of students in the high school, secondary, which is grades 9 through 12. Also, the number of students that are representing students at or in above the federal poverty level. We'll talk about that a little later on. And one English language learner, and then the overall population density of Fairfax, 133.2 people per unit, which is too high to do anything for in terms of a weight. So we'll just put that there and leave it. So we've got all these numbers. Let's do some calculations. The first thing we do is we figure out the long-term average daily membership, which is simply an average of the current year and last year. Take 913 and average it with 893.38. We get 903.19. Add in the 5.07 state place students, and we end up with 908.26. So that's kind of a rough number of the actual number of human beings, beating hearts, however you want to measure it, in the school building from pre-K through 12. Last year, the long-term ADM was 912.99, so a little bit lower than last year, even though we did have a larger average daily membership. So there's a number. Now we do some math, some extra math. So students sort of require different levels of education, different levels of support, depending on their age and depending on a bunch of circumstances. And this weighting helps us to try to figure that out. So pre-K students are only in the school for 10 hours a week. And so it's not the same staffing level required to educate them. So for every preschool student, we essentially lose a 0.54 of a weight. So the 94.5 preschool students that we have currently loses us 51.03. Comparing to last year, it was 53.30, had slightly larger preschool enrollment, which then gets you a bigger reduction because there's more of them to lose. Elementary is the baseline, so there's no extra weight for elementary students. Middle school students receive an extra 0.36 weight. The idea being that, at middle school, we may have to have a math, a science, and English, and a social studies teacher that we might not have had at K-5. So adds additional expenses to educating a middle school student. So that extra 0.36 for 197 students gives us an extra 71.04 in the weighting area. High school, secondary 0.39, same sort of theory, requires more teachers to educate a high school student. So those 224 high school students gain us an extra 87.4 in weighting. And you can see again, comparison up a little bit in all areas in the weighting from last year. This next one's a big change. So students that are identified as economically disadvantaged, which means that their family is making less than or equal to 185% of the federal poverty level, those students count as an extra 1.03. So in addition to their one, they count as another 1.03. We identified 340.98 students that are in the Fairfax system that are at or below that federal poverty level marker, which gives a weighting of another 351.21. That is a drastic increase from the numbers from the previous year. So not sure whether that's a demographic change or an accounting change, but it's more students, which is certainly helpful in the tax rate calculations. One English language learner, so another 2.49 weight for that. Add all these numbers up, and we get a 461.11 in additional weights added to the 908.26, and we end up with a long-term weighted average daily membership of 1,369.37, as compared to last year's number 1,231.45. So drastic difference, and it will make an impact on the tax calculations as we move forward. That really is about all we want to say about the long-term weighted average daily membership. It's that explanation of how we get from the students that were pictured there that are living, breathing human beings to that number that's much larger, and why that matters. I referenced the Vermont's education funding system video. That's already out there. This is this one. Next video will be about class size, staffing ratios, Act 73, and a return on your investment. Then we'll get into the budget overview, and finally a tax calculation, household impact video. We want to get these all in your hands before February 11th, which is when early voting begins. So again, if you or a family member won't be around on March 3rd to vote, you can contact the town clerk and get an absentee ballot and vote early. The budget information meeting is Saturday, February 28th in the elementary school gym at BFA. That is immediately following the town presentation. And voting day is Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. Please, I hope this made this kind of difficult topic a little clearer. If you have questions, please reach out to me, and come to the information meeting or come to a school board meeting, and happy to answer further questions. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.